Hey, well, tonight I'm angry at the demagogues, and if you don't know what a demagogue is, it's somebody who is fairly skilled at public speaking, who doesn't really have a strong logical argument, but appeals to you on an emotional basis by name-calling and by rabble-rousing, and that's exactly what we're seeing these days. Now, you may have noticed that there was a protest in Washington, D.C. a couple of days ago. A large group of people went to Washington, D.C. to complain about the election, to claim that some states had held unfair, if not illegal, elections. And if you hear the way that they are being described, they're being described as terrorists. Not only that, but the person who encouraged them to assemble, the person who encouraged them to peacefully assemble and to protest peacefully, is also being accused of terrorism, and that is President Trump, who indeed is being actively impeached as we speak. The House is trying to get Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to claim that Donald Trump is unfit for office. It seems that all we do these days is name-calling. The work of the Congress over the last 4 years has really just been about trying to remove the sitting president under any pretext whatsoever. Demagogues hold sway these days. If you're able to appeal to the public's emotion, it doesn't really matter what your claims are, whether you're Eric Swalwell claiming that President Trump works directly for Vladimir Putin, whether you are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer claiming that Donald Trump was trying to get dirt on Joe Biden from Ukraine. Everything today is just hyperbole and an appeal to our emotions. There is no real leadership anymore. There is no real politics anymore. And my problem is this: the rise of the demagogues means that something bad is coming down the pike. Right now we have amateurs. We have Pelosi, Schumer, and a whole cast of other characters, all of whom are engaged in flat-out name-calling, and no name is too low to be invoked. But something bad, something evil is going to shamble down towards us, and that's going to be a demagogue who's going to appeal to most of the country, because we are going to be suffering through a bad 4 years. Our currency is about to lose value. We are continuing to lose standing on the world stage, and we're going to be very vulnerable when the demagogue appears, who appeals to our baser instincts, who tells us that we're misunderstood, who tells us that our destiny is far greater than the role we find ourselves in, and who promises to lift us up. This has been the way of demagogues throughout history. They seize upon opportunities like this. When a country finds itself fragmented and desperately in need of leadership, they seem to be the strong man, the hope that the nation needs. And the fact that we're now moving entirely away from civilized discourse and entirely into name-calling and demagoguery means that the stage is being set for this individual, be he a man or a woman, to arise and to rule us. And this demagogue, when he or she seizes power, is not going to relinquish it lightly. They never do. You can look throughout history. They say history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And the fact that we no longer have a functioning government, we no longer have a Congress, we have Congress and the Senate openly in open warfare against the sitting president. We have the Supreme Court unwilling to interfere, nay, unwilling to even make rulings on what is constitutional or not. There's a Supreme Court that is not even willing to act when states have disagreements between themselves. We are in a power vacuum, and there's nothing that a demagogue likes more than a vacuum, because that is a vacuum they are eager to fill, and we will beg them to fill it. We may have already come too far. People believe that name-calling is discourse now. Calling someone a terrorist, telling them that because they were protesting, albeit peacefully, that they should be forbidden to fly, that they should be forbidden from having a job, that they should lose their job indeed. This name-calling is only going to end badly. It never ends well. If you've been a parent, you know that this kind of thing needs to be nipped in the bud immediately, because it only festers and gets worse. And I can tell you that half of the country believes that President Trump was cheated in the election, and the other half of the country believes that Trump supporters are terrorists and racists, if not worse. There's never going to be any unity between us. We are going to be vulnerable to a strong type leader who will claim to be able to unite us, as many countries throughout history have always fallen prey to this kind of individual. real. Demagogues are the default in third world countries, and we are becoming vulnerable to just such a leader. If we don't stop this downward spiral, if we don't start communicating with each other and making points and stop the name calling, it will soon be over, and we won't be able to call each other names at all anymore. We are setting the stage for something far worse. We're going to end up welcoming our own destruction. Please, let's wake up.